Hey everyone, it's Justin again. In this lesson, we're going to solve systems of linear equations using a method called substitution. Don't forget to try the warm-up on this lesson's cover sheet before continuing with this video. Do your best to find the value of the triangle and the value of the rectangle. But if you get stuck, don't worry, you have a chance to come back to it later. Let's look at this equation. Can we solve this to find the value of x? I can't solve this to find the value of x because there's another variable here. But what if I told you that y equals 5? Can you solve for x now? Give it a try. You see, we can substitute 5 in y's place, like this. And now that x is the only variable left in this equation, we can solve for it. Go ahead and solve for x if you haven't already done so. Did you get 7 over 6 for x? If not, take a moment to check your work against mine and find your mistake. So, how would you describe what we did here with this system in order to solve for x? Well, I would say that we were able to substitute something in for y to leave us with an equation that only had one variable. And then we used our solving skills to find the value of that variable. The final step is to write our solution as an ordered pair. And this, my friends, is exactly how we solve a system of equations using substitution. So think about how you could approach this problem. This time we don't know the exact value of y, but we do know an expression that represents y. Can you think of a way to use substitution to get this top equation to only contain the variable x? How can we use what we know about y to help us rewrite this top equation without y in it? Let's use 4x plus 1 as a replacement for y. In other words, let's substitute 4x plus 1 into the top equation as y. Now that this top equation only contains one variable, x, go ahead and solve to see what the value of x is. Pause the video now to work through this. I got that x is 1/2. You didn't get 1/2, pause the video so you can figure out where your mistake was. Now, if I try to write my final answer as an ordered pair, wait a second, I don't know the value of y. I know that y equals the expression for x plus 1, but I need the actual numerical value of y to write my ordered pair. Can you think of a way that I can figure out the value of y? Now that I know that x is 1/2, I can substitute that in here to help me get an equation with only y in it. Now, we could also substitute 1/2 for x into the top equation if we prefer to solve for y in that equation instead. Substituting into either one of the original two equations is just fine. Anyways, take a moment here to catch up on your notes and solve this for y. You should have that y equals 3. This value of y is the last thing we needed to finalize our answer. So, how are you feeling about the substitution method so far? Can you summarize the steps we took to find the solution to this system? There's a place in your notes to do just that. Take a moment here to go back through this problem again and try to summarize the steps we took to solve it. Pause the video now and take your time on this. Let's see. I would say that since we had an expression to represent one of our variables, we substituted that expression in so that we would have an equation with just one variable left. Then we found the value of that variable and substituted that back into one of our original two equations in the system to find the value of the other variable. Now that we have a pretty good idea how to solve systems of equations using substitution, your turn to try this without me. I have two example problems for you to complete. And here's the first one. The directions say to solve the system of equations using substitution. Go ahead and try this. Do your absolute best on your own. Okay, let's see here. Since x is equivalent to this expression, we should be able to substitute that into the other equation where x is. And that gives us an equation with only one variable in it. Perfect. We can solve this and figure out what the value of y is. If you got stuck up to this point, pause the video now and take a moment to continue with this on your own. Let's see if your answer matches mine. Did you get that y equals 7? If not, did you remember to put the expression in parentheses as a reminder to distribute the 3 to both terms? Definitely pause the video here so you can check your work. Now we have half of our coordinate point, but how are we going to go back and find the value of x? We need to use one of our two original equations to substitute 7 in for y. But which equation should we use? Well, it's actually completely up to you. You can always go with whichever looks easier to work with. Or, to be even more confident in your final answer, you could substitute 7 into both equations and solve for x to make sure that you get the same answer both times. It's up to you. Decide which equation you're going to substitute 7 into for y, solve for x. Pause the video now so you can work through this. I don't know about you, but I like to use both equations just to make sure I'm getting the correct answer. If I get the same x value in both equations, I can be more confident in my final answer. Let's see. If I substitute 7 for y into the top equation, I get that x is negative 2.5. And if I substitute 7 for y into the bottom equation, I also get that x equals negative 2.5. Great! I can be confident that this is my final answer. Here's one more to try. What do you notice about these equations that's a little different than what we've worked with so far in this lesson? Yeah, they both have y isolated. So we have two different expressions for what y equals. To solve this system of equations, you could choose to substitute 4x minus 3.5 into the bottom equation for y, or you can substitute negative 2x plus 5.5 into the top equation for y. Either way, this will give you an equation with only x in it to solve. So go ahead, take it from here. Solve this system of equations using substitution. Pause the video now and work through this. When substituting one expression for y into the other equation, this is what I get. It's an equation with only one variable, x. Now let's solve that to find the value of x. And here we go. X is 1.5. Or if you wrote 3 over 2, that's great too. Now we're halfway to our final answer. We just need to go back and figure out what y is. So where should I substitute 1.5 back in? Remember, either of these equations will work. Since it's the x value, it can go here or here. You'll be able to solve and get the value of y either way. Let's check it out. When I substitute 1.5 in here for x, I get y equals 2.5. And when I substitute 1.5 for x here, I also get that y equals 2.5. Now I just need to include that in my final answer. Now you can solve systems of equations using substitution. Don't forget to revisit the warm-up from the cover page of this lesson. Maybe now you'll think about how to solve it a little differently than the first time you approached it. Then, remember to finish up your notes and check back in with the objective statement to rate your level of understanding. If you're not feeling confident, go back through any parts of this video again and add to your notes before taking on the online practice. Good luck with that, and I'll see you next time.
Hey.